What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel. With me today is an individual who is looking to become the next NWA World Women's Champion, closing in on 5 years as a wrestler, well regarded, highly regarded by her peers as well. This is KiLynn King. KiLynn, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm good. It's a good day. I'm feeling good. Had a good training week, so no complaints here.
As, as I mentioned at the top, of course, you are going to be challenging Kamille for the NWA World Women's Championship at Hard Times 3 in November. I know you guys
Yeah.
had wrestled back at Always Ready back in June, I believe. You as a wrestler, like when you into a spotlighted rematch like this on pay-per-view, how important is it for you to have a, I don't want to say like a completely different match, but it's still in the same tone, have a completely different match while wanting to do callbacks and drawbacks from the first go around on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, every single time you get to step in the ring with somebody again, you always have to be a little bit more prepared. So this time, I think you're definitely going to see that from Kamille and I. We kind of already knew each other a little bit going into it because we came from the same school.
Mm-hmm.
We were trained by the same minds in the business. But this time, we physically dealt with each other. So I think this time it's going to be a little bit more of a fight to actually, find uh, ourselves on top to be able to go for those pins and try to get those submissions and stuff like that. Her and I are both brutal, strong competitors. But the thing that people haven't, I don't, at least I don't think people have been noticing is that Kamille has been working her butt off this past year.
Yeah.
Uh, her every single time she steps in the ring, I always tell her, you always have one surprise up your sleeve. And I think that's great because I think people are at the point where they think they know what to expect from you. And when you're constantly elevating your work, every single time you step in that ring, you always have something new and fresh to give to people. So they go, dang, just when I thought I knew what she was capable of, she proves us wrong again.
Mm.
So I think it's definitely going to be a matter of her both studying each other even more than we did before, but also making sure that we come into the ring with a new bag of tricks. So that way, anything that the other person is expecting, we can slip into something else and possibly outsmart them in that regard. So for sure, having to come in with a new game plan is definitely a big must in this situation.
I said, something you mentioned about like Kamille, putting in the work. I had interviewed,
Oh yeah.
I want to say several months ago now or a month ago. She said she kind of felt like when it comes to some of the top tier women's champions in pro wrestling, she kind of feel like she kind of get left out of those conversations a lot. And like she was like she was like listing off a couple of things as to why that is, but it was just an interesting conversation to have as far as like because Kamille, she has been the champion for like over a year now, like 20 some title defenses. So
Yeah.
I think that was a nice point that you brought up. But like you have been with NWA or you've been working with them. So I think you debuted last year at the EmPowerrr show. Made it to the
Yeah.
finals of the women's tag title tournament with Red Velvet. Like just going into that EmPowerrr show, like now that we like a year and some change removed from it, so sort of walk me down like sort of your memories of that event and how special that was, as it is a 4 year pass in the past now.
Yeah, that night, okay, so first of all, just getting asked to be a part of it, like again, kind of what we were talking about before we started the interview, like it was one of those moments where I did not expect an opportunity like that to be coming my way anytime soon. That
Mm,
was my very first pay-per-view ever. Um, and it was literally like Christopher Daniels pulled me and Red Velvet aside and were like, "Hey, we want you guys to do this pay-per-view with NWA and enter the tag team tournament since you guys have been tagging together."
mm,
And I was like, and like he phrased the question like, let me know. And I looked at like I grabbed his arm and I looked at him. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I looked at Velvet. I'm like, you're in, right? And she's like, yeah, I'm in. I'm like,
mm.
yeah. I was like, what do you mean let you know? It's a freaking NWA and it's a pay-per-view. Of course I want to do it. Not to mention it was the first ever all women's pay-per-view. So yes, I want to do it. Um, so we already knew it was going to be a big deal going in, that it was going to be something really, really special, that there were going to be a lot of eyes on the event. But I don't think emotionally I knew how much it was going to hit with me until we got there. Because I always tell people, even the night before when we were just entering the ballroom, to get our eyes on the ring and everything like that and find out what was going on, I just remember feeling this overwhelming feeling like, oh, we're about to do something really special tomorrow. And like growing up, I always had that mindset like, why don't women get more opportunities? Why are we stuck in this segment when I know I'm capable of this. So I know that these people who are trained and experienced are more than capable of this. So that was my mindset going into it before I even became a wrestler. So the fact that I got to be a part of an event that was the first ever for women in the NWA, I was like, how full circle is that? That I've always had this mindset since I was a kid, like women deserve more, women deserve more. And then I got to be a part of that. And not only did I get to be a part of that, but I got to be a part of it with one of my best friends, Red Velvet. And then also legends like Medusa and Mickey James and Gail Kim and like all these people in the building and people that I never in a million years thought I would meet anytime soon, let alone be on a pay-per-view with. So it was just one of those things that it was so cool to be a part of. And just, be able to put my name in the history books, a part of something that was a first ever, because there's not, slowly but surely, there's not a lot of first evers left for women in wrestling,
Yeah.
like we're getting to the point now where we're breaking those barriers. So being able to know that my name is in the books on a first ever, I just thought that was so, so cool. So it
That's
was
it.
definitely a magical evening. And you could tell that all the women that were part of that pay-per-view were so hungry and ready and excited, because I don't think a single match was a letdown on that pay-per-view. So
I said, you want to know, like, I like thinking back on that and like sort of comparing the crowds of both nights. Like, I'm just saying, like the crowd for Empower, they was a little more lit for Empower versus the second night. I'm just saying,
we
like,
had we had the entire male roster. That, like, that's the thing I love about our locker room at NWA, is it's not just the women who want to push the women. The men are very invested too. We had, I remember that night of EmPowerrr, the entire male locker room that was going to be performing the next night was in the back, peeking through the doors, watching the show, and like,
that's
like
cool.
I got backstage after my last match because I had wrestled twice that night. So I got backstage after my match with Marty and AK, and I walked back and there were like men just with arms open, ready to hug me and being like, "You guys killed it." And I'm like, they didn't have to do that. They could have been in their hotel rooms right now watching TV and chilling and eating their meals. Like, they didn't have to be there, and they were so supportive. And there was a couple guys there that I had known, like I didn't know them super well, but they had known me since I had first started.
Right.
And one of the guys came up to me and hugged me and like got really teary-eyed. And he was just like, "It's incredible to know that like I met you 3 4 years ago, and you, like, I used to wrestle in jean shorts and a sports bra because I had no money. I had no funds, extra funds for actual professional wrestling gear. So I was literally like doing like a really cheap AJ Lee version. I was in shorts, a sports bra, and really like crappy Converse that I had since I was like 16.
You got to start
Um,
somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere.
yeah, yeah. So, but at least like AJ, she like, that was her like thing and it looked great. But like for me, it was literally just what was in my closet. I didn't have it made for wrestling. It was so bad. Um, so like he knew me then, and he's like, how incredible is it to see you not only like evolve, but now you're in NWA on your first ever pay-per-view and you killed it. And I was just like, oh man, I got all teary-eyed. It was a great night. It was a very great uplifting night.
That's real cool to hear. Like, so to stand on that topic, I did kind of want to get your take on some something related to it. Like, because I know over the past several months or so, there have been interviews that Billy Corgan and Trevor Murdoch had done. Trevor Murdoch most recently, where like there were both of them phrased their comments differently, but the sentiments were the same about the idea of a second Empower show, and that not being a part of the NWA 74 weekend this past summer. And the idea that there's not a lot of available non-contracted TV quality wrestlers right now. And you don't have to like directly address those comments, but as someone who is actively on the independent scene, someone who wrestles for an all women's promotion, and there's a regular for like Mission Pro Wrestling, I'm pretty sure you have seen an abundance of talent who are TV ready and are prepared for that opportunity, but they just don't have the platform or the sort of the connections, or maybe the resources, or maybe even people not have the opportunity to see what they can do to even get the opportunity to be on that platform. But there are plenty of talents out there, and I'm sure you know that it's somebody that's within the thick of it.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of talent out there. I don't know if everybody who is a part of creating a second EmPowerrr is aware of the talent.
Yeah.
I have the ability where I get booked on a lot of all women shows. So I'm constantly experiencing women from all over the world, whether I'm wrestling them or just on the same show with them. I think no, I don't run NWA. I don't have the wherewithal and I
Right,
don't
right,
have
right,
the say and all that stuff. But I can't imagine that there won't ever be another EmPowerrr. I think
right,
right
right.
now it's just a matter, like we had a lot of women from different companies come in for EmPowerrr to represent and really have a really strong a roster for that show.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of becoming aware of what's available and finding an equally strong, if not better, roster for the next one.
Mm,
Because you never want to run a pay-per-view and just be like, oh well, we need women, so just book all these people.
mm,
You want to make sure that every booking matters for an event like that. So
right.
I don't think it's a matter of not ever running an EmPowerrr. I think
Mm,
it's just becoming more aware of what's available and finding what works,
mm.
finding
And,
the stories and the talent that makes sense.
and sort of switching over, like I had mentioned, Mission Pro Wrestling. I know you've been a regular there. I know you work closely with a lot of people within that promotion. Talk to me
Yeah.
about sort of the camaraderie within that locker room, and bringing in a variety of different people. I know you guys have had like different sponsorships now, like you hit different markets across the U.S. Just talk to me about the overall growth of Mission Pro and how proud you are to see how things have grown, over the past several years or so.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I wrestled for Mission Pro, I believe it was Buda, Texas.
Mm.
It was like a little outdoor pavilion at a one of those game places, arcade things. Like it
Yeah.
was right outside that. And I just remember the first time I ever wrestled there, there was just something so special. Like the fans that they have, especially in Texas, are such big women's wrestling fans. And it's almost kind of difficult because they want all of us to succeed so much that even when the bad guys come out, they're like, yeah, they're here. And then you're like, guys, okay, like yeah, no, like they just love women's wrestling and they want to see us do well. And the people who run Mission Pro are very passionate about pushing us, trying to give us stories and creativity to really elevate each match and make it mean something more and more. And like the biggest thing about Mission Pro is it's not necessarily who you know. It's are you out there working? Are you grinding? Are you showing everybody how bad you want it? And when they see that, and when they see people, with passion and with stories, and they bring them in because they want them to be seen and represented. Because Mission Pro has given a lot of people, or a lot of women who have come through there, great connections to bigger and better things.
Mm.
So it's definitely like a beautiful, like a wonderful, wonderful locker room. I've had nothing but good experiences there. It's always a good, fun time. Like everybody just wants to have fun and have a great show, and always strive for each and every show to be better than the last one. And so right now we're kind of in San Antonio for a little bit, but
Yeah.
usually we're at our newest location was the Southern Star Brewery in Conroe, Texas. I'm getting better at remembering the towns of Texas. I'm not from Texas, so
uh,
um but yeah, no, so we've been going around a little bit, but it's crazy to me to see how passionate people are about Mission Pro. Because I've had, like I said, we've been going all around Texas, and it blows my mind. There was a family that came up to my merch table after a show one day, and they were like, yeah, we drove 12 hours to be here. And I was like, wait, what? And they
right.
were
Yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
like we really wanted to come to a Mission Pro show. So we drove 12 hours. I can understand somebody driving however many hours, if a WWE show or an AEW show or
Yeah.
NWA is nearby. But like a independent show, like that just shows you the size of the brand that Mission Pro is and is becoming, because people are driving from so far just to come hang out for 2+ hours and chill. And I just think that's so cool. Like it just really shows you um, what Mission Pro is accomplishing and how passionate people are about what their mission statement is.
Mhm. It's kind of cool, like when you look at some of the Mission Pro cards and you see like how and when you look at sort of the individual talents that are regulars there like yourself, you see how like scattered everybody is throughout different promotions and stuff like that, different companies. Like I just think it's real
Yeah.
cool what Mission Pro is doing. And I think you guys are streaming some of the shows on Title Match Network, I believe. Like some of the shows up there. So
Yeah, all of
yeah.
them.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's
So,
cool.
some
It's
of
cool
them
to see
end
the
up
growth,
on
man.
YouTube, but
Yeah. Oh,
but
yep.
most, like all the shows are usually streamed live, and then they re-release them the next day, and then eventually matches show up on YouTube. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing I love about Mission Pro is you've got your main girls who are going to be there majority of the shows, but then every show they're always
Yeah, new people.
cycling in new
Yeah.
girls who might not like. Just recently I wrestled Caitlin Alexis, and I've known her for a little bit, but like she hasn't had a lot of opportunities yet, even though she's been out there for a little bit. She was struggling to get the ball rolling, right? So they
Mm.
brought her in and they put a spotlight on her. They put her in interviews. Like that's the thing. Like they try to give these girls, the new girls that they bring in, as much. Sorry, my tongue is
Now
tied
you
right now.
good.
As much exposure as they can. That way, other promotions who might be paying attention to Mission Pro look at this girl and be like, oh, like I heard of her, but I wasn't sure if she was good or not, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they bring them in. So it's nice to see how Mission Pro can help some people who are struggling to get their ball rolling so they can start finding more bookings and start getting more exposure, because at the end of the day, we all want to eat. So
Hey, kind of talk to me about what it's like for you to sort of be on the other side of that now. Because at one point, you were that individual that was like, I just need one opportunity. I just need somebody to look at me.
right.
Just all I need is one check. And now you on the flip side of that, and you like the individual who is like helping that other person, like in the ring, sort of like get that exposure. Like, is that kind of cool for you to sort of be on the other side of things where you were just that individual like 4 or so years ago?
It's like a 50-50 situation, because I'm stuck in this weird, at least I think I am. I'm
Mm,
stuck in this weird medium where I have exposure now,
yeah.
but there are still certain categories of wrestling fans that don't know who the hell I am.
Mm,
So I'm still like, I'm very much like, I always joke that like we work so hard to get exposure, like we're on it, we're busy, we're busy, we're busy. But then once we do get the exposure, you can't really slow down. If anything, you have to start moving faster, which is why you see me post every single day. If I see a month that's lagging or lacking in bookings, I always make posts about like, hey, I have these dates available. You constantly have to be posting about that stuff and keeping people aware of your brand, because somebody who's looking at your profile or finds your name on a Monday, there might be a different person that didn't see you Monday that will see you on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? So
mm.
like you constantly have to be uh networking, posting. That's why I've made it a point. One of my good friends, Roland, he's a cinematographer. I met him through Mission Pro, and then I found out later on that he lived in Florida.
Mm.
Apparently, we had met each other on an indie show not that long ago, and I had completely spaced about it. And so he reminded me, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, I met you back at this place," and I was like, "Oh my God, you're right, we did meet." And then I found out he lived in Florida. So then he started working for one of the promotions I work for regularly. And so him and I were constantly filming content, whether it was just content for my matches or just backstage content or just even like stock footage content, because I wanted to start creating products through my profiles that looked like TV quality. Because the thing that happens is we get a little exposure and then we think, okay, the ball's rolling. People are going to start booking us in a serious way.
Right, and just ride that wave all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is we have this idea like, hey, I'm a star, just put a camera in front of me. And then when they don't put a camera in front of us, we get frustrated.
Mm,
But my belief is if somebody doesn't want to put a camera in front of you and you have ideas in your head and you think that you have TV quality products and stories to give, put a camera in front of yourself. Find somebody with high quality content or get high quality camera stuff yourself. I mean, I'm in the process of doing that. That way, when I don't have Roland or people like Roland, I can do it for myself. So you constantly have to be elevating yourself to the next level. That way, like, because you don't go from an indie wrestler to a top TV star overnight. As much as people like to believe that, it doesn't happen. So even
man.
after you start to get the exposure, you're still not there yet. You have to constantly be pushing. And even when you're there, you have to work even harder to stay there. So I to sorry, I went off on a little bit of a
Oh no,
tangent,
you
but
you
to go
good.
back to your
Good.
to go back to your question, yes, I do love being able to help people who used to be in the spot that I was in, because it was a struggle. I've had girls reach out to me um, who, because like I've talked about in interviews in the past that there was a point in time where I was lucky if I had 50 cents in my bank account before payday. I lived off of Dollar Tree food for 3 some years. Uh, there was a couple times where I came this close to being homeless because I couldn't afford my rent, or I was struggling with things. or I couldn't keep a job because the wrestling schedule is very demanding.
Yeah.
And I've seen and witnessed a lot of people cave into the regular 9 to 5 in order to, survive like we want to. And because of that, they couldn't fully commit to wrestling. And so their career kind of stayed stagnant. They never went anywhere. And that was like one of my biggest things because I gave up a lot of stuff to move to Florida and become a wrestler. So I was like, I'm not making all that sacrifices for nothing.
Right.
I said, even if I gotta, live out of a car, I don't care. Like, we're gonna make this happen. So I would always give my schedule to my employers and they'd be like, we can't work with this. This is terrible. And then I'd be like, all right, cool. So I would work there for a couple of weeks. And then the days that I told them I couldn't work and they tried to book me for a shift, I was like, nope. And I wouldn't show up and then I'd lose my job, which yes, you're going to lose your job if you don't show up to work.
Yeah.
But I would try to explain it to people and they would just be like, I don't care if you're trying to be a wrestler, you got to work. So thankfully along the way, I made a good friend and she hooked up at the Orlando airport and that was like overnight. And I was able to work it out where it was literally, I would work, what was it? Like, I think it was like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m.
That's cool.
Sunday through Friday. I get off Friday morning, hop in somebody's car, drive all weekend to shows, whether I was booked or not, and then get out Sunday night and do it all over again. So that was my life for a long time. So I've been very open and honest about that. And I've had people reach out to me like, hey, I saw you talk about how like you were struggling and you didn't have food and you almost came home with like, what did you do in those situations? And so it's really cool to know that there are people who feel comfortable to turn to me for that advice because at one point I was the person that was like,
Right.
what do I do in this situation? So it is really cool to see that full circle come around. But yeah, no, we're always working to get our brand to the next level. So if I can be a small part of that for somebody else, oh yeah.
I say it's all part of the grind, man. But like
Yeah.
I feel like when like 5 some years from now, like you're gonna look back and like think about those times that you just mentioned, and you're just gonna be like, damn, like like
I'm already doing that a little bit. So I can only imagine another 5 years from now how different this time of my life will look. It's crazy.
For sure, man. That's what's up. That's what's up. Like we talking about, you wanted to become the NWA World Women's Champion. I know you are the reigning, I think the Coastal Championship Wrestling champion. That's based out in Florida, I believe. I think I heard.
Actually,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
actually just recently lost that title in a
Oh, you
bet.
did? Oh,
I
okay.
didn't get pinned for it though. I didn't
Okay.
get pinned for it, but I did lose. Yes, but I am currently the Capital Championship Wrestling
Oh,
champion,
okay.
and
Okay.
I also am the Eastern Shore Pro Wrestling champion in Virginia,
Okay.
and the Belladonna Women's champion.
Yeah.
So I still have 3 other
you still
titles.
you still got the you still got 3 of them. And probably might
I
have
still
4, might
got
have
some
4.
gold.
But like I did want to talk to
Yeah.
you about the coastal championship wrestling one because I had heard like wrestlers and personalities like talk about like I heard like mention it in passing in interviews, and like I had went to go look it up before we did this interview. You had been champion for like if you would have hit January, I think it would have been like a full year if you would have still had the
Yeah.
belt. Like, and you had like 20 title defenses. Like and I think that's a real like
Yeah,
great number for a number of
I
title
think the
defenses.
promoter told me that I defended the title more in a year than I don't remember exactly what he said, but I defended it probably he was kind of blown away. He's like, I didn't realize how many times you defended this title. He's like,
Yeah,
usually we only get this title defended like once a month because they run shows like
sporadically.
4 or 5, like four times a month, I think.
That's
Like 'cause sometimes they run like 2 shows in one weekend because they have different locations.
that's cool. That's good.
Um, yeah, so and I gave him a lot of dates after I became champion. So he was kind of surprised. He's like, I didn't expect you to defend this title so many times in less than a year. And I was like, yeah, I was like, it's a Florida-based promotion. I'm in Florida. I was like, if I don't have anything going on, of course why wouldn't I come to a show and defend it? Like, just give me someone good to wrestle and let's go. Let's do
That's
it.
what's up. And I was saying you actually wrestled Kamille for that promotion for the NWA Women's title, right? That same
Yes,
promotion?
I wasn't the champion
Champion
yet.
at
That
okay.
was that was shortly before I won the title.
Mm.
Yeah, that was which is crazy because I didn't know I was gonna wrestle her at Always Ready.
Mm.
I didn't even know I was going to be working for the NWA at that time. So I thought that's kind of cool. It was like our little sample of each other before all the stuff with NWA ended up happening. And then like the rest is history. So yeah.
So, like circling around like to your work with AEW, I actually wanted to read you a quote that Tony Khan had said about you. I think he was on Busted Open Radio, I believe. And you could respond or react to it, afterwards. What he said, I quote, he said, "I love KiLynn King's wrestling and her work ethic, and I think she's a great person. She is somebody that has been in AEW and a really hard worker and has gone out in the independent scene and done a really good job and built up a reputation, and then came back and had an awesome match with Tony Storm on Dynamite, and I thought it was excellent. I believe he said that before your match with Britt Baker back in August. But yeah,
Yeah.
high praise on
Oh,
in the media
yes.
circle for Tony Khan.
That man has his eyes on a lot of people. So to know that he's been paying attention to my work on the independents means a lot. Um, it was one of those things where it's like I really enjoyed working there, but I could just, and, and I said it in my promo on Dark, so I don't mind restating it.
Right, right.
It was one of those things where if you're working a place for a certain amount of time, you know whether it's going to happen or not. And as much as I loved the stage that AEW has, I could feel it. I was like, they don't have anything for me right now.
Right.
I said they appreciate me, they like my work, and they trust me with a lot of things. I like, but main roster wise, they don't have anything for me right now. And it was kind of like a really hard thing to accept. But once I accepted it, I said, here's what you do. And this is what I said earlier. If they don't have a spot for you right now and they don't have camera time for you right now, go find a camera and show them that you're a
Mm-hmm.
TV star. So that's what I did. I went out in the independents, and it was kind of crazy. Like almost immediately once I started working independents full time again, several different promotions wanted to put their titles on me. And I said, all right, these promotions that want to take time and invest in me, I'm going to give them TV quality product. So that's why, like every single time I would go to the shows, whether it was Coastal, Capital, Belladonna, anywhere, I would always make sure that we cut backstage segments, that we did promos, that whoever I was supposed to be feuding with at the time, we found each other and we did stuff outside of the shows, just like they would do on TV. So I started doing product like that. And I think that's what really, I mean, like, forget the matches I've had. Like, yes, I've loved every single match I've had in Independence, but I think it was the fact of all the stuff that I was doing in between the matches to make it mean more. Like, for example, the feud I had with Marina Tucker, her and I did things behind the scenes. We didn't wait until we were in front of a crowd. We made sure that we were constantly had each other's names in each other's mouths.
Using
We were
social
talking about
media.
each other, yes, through social media. And it's so scary when you do stuff like that, because you're constantly saying like, okay, yeah, I have 30,000 followers or whatever, but how many of them actually pay attention to what I post and what I do? So it was really cool that when her and I were in the process of that, at one of the shows, uh, several people came up to my table and were like, yo, we love the stuff that you're posting online. It makes us get so
Mm-hmm.
excited for the show when you guys are actually going to finally touch each other. And I was like, oh, thank God, because people are paying attention. I don't know how many, but people are paying attention. So that was the biggest thing I wanted to prove, because a lot of us think that we have to wait for a big company to put a camera on us. No, that's not how it works. If you want people to see that you're a TV quality star, you got to show them you're a TV quality star. You can't wait until somebody gives you the green light. You got to give yourself the green light. So once I made the decision to back away from AEW a little bit and start doing more on the independents, I just crossed my fingers and I said, I hope that the people who are behind, the big stage curtains are paying attention and watching, because we can sit here and say that, you know, we love wrestling, but at the end of the day, we all secretly want to work somewhere permanently, have a contract, have
Yeah,
a
of
steady
course.
paycheck.
Of course. Who
And
wouldn't
that's
want that?
and yeah, and I don't lie. That's my goal for sure. Where I end up, I don't know. Right now, I've been doing a lot of incredible work at the NWA, and they have blessed me with so many incredible opportunities and put so much faith in me. So that's where I ended up, and I love it. But yeah, like you just got to do that for yourself, and I really appreciate the fact that Tony was paying attention and saw, um, and I got to come back and have that really cool special moment. 2 weeks in a row on Dynamite, and I got to wrestle Toni Storm, which again, a match I never thought would happen, because not that long ago, she was in a company that I never saw myself at. So you never know. Like, and then getting to wrestle Britt in my hometown, the Browns versus the Steelers whole vibe, and my parents were in the crowd for that show, and believe it or not, they've never seen me wrestle live. So it was really cool. Like as quick as that moment was, it was really cool to know that it was kind of like a little blessing because I don't get booked in Ohio very often. So I wasn't sure when my parents were ever actually going to see me wrestle. Like they go on YouTube and all that stuff, and they watch my matches, but it's very, very different when you can look out in the front row and see your mom and dad and your brothers and his wife and their kids just sitting there, and you're like, oh my gosh, these are the people that supported me and made sacrifices for me, and were there for me on my darkest days. And now they're sitting front row watching me on a huge platform. So it was very, very cool and a very special moment. I always am very grateful to Tony for that.
That's real cool. And like two things like I wanted to touch on what you just said. Like I think there's a lot of like self-awareness that comes with that, like choosing to step away from AEW and sort of take that step back. Cause like you could stay in that position and like, get the
Yeah.
occasional TV spot here and there, and then like be a regular on Dark Elevation. But I think it takes a lot of like self-reflection and like a lot of like growth. It like if that's the right word to like be like, I kind of you see more for yourself and you know where you
Yes.
belong and you know
Yeah.
where you want to be. So I think that takes a lot internally to like sort of let that go for a little bit and be like, okay, let me go
And
do my own thing.
it was a very difficult decision to make because it was a steady paycheck. It was great exposure. Every single time I had a match, I always, followers would increase, more interest would increase. Like, but it got to a point where I felt stuck. And not in a matter of I didn't like being there. I just felt
Right.
stuck
I
like
know
because
what you mean.
my work wasn't progressing. And that was the biggest thing because to kind of contradict what I said earlier, yes, we all want to be a part of a big company and make a good steady paycheck. But at the end of the day, I got into wrestling because I love wrestling. So, as somebody who is very passionate and loves wrestling and wants to hopefully one day be considered one of the best, if you don't feel like you're progressing, it kind of kills your soul a little bit. So I've just told myself, I'm like, I need to go out and experience new bodies and experience new atmospheres and just grow as a performer and as a wrestler and start having, some title defenses and some bangers and just start elevating my product because I was having a lot of like quick matches and they're always so much fun. But I wanted to start experiencing those 20-minute bangers and,
Right.
those stipulation matches that really make you push your work. And like, I just wanted to do that for myself. And so I remember the first couple months after I stepped away, I was like in such a panic. I'm like, did I make the right choice? Like,
Right.
because it took a minute for the bookings to start coming. Because I don't think people realized that I was back on the independents. And there was a short period of time where a lot of people thought I was signed and I wasn't. So like I think that's kind of what happened with the NWA is because I had reached out to Mickey James. I was like, hey, I just recently discovered that people think I'm signed to AEW. I'm not. And I would really like to start experiencing other companies and start getting more work in other places and just, growing my name. And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah. She's like, I thought you were signed too. That's why I never, inquired about other stuff with you. I was like, okay. And then a week later, I was working with NWA. So I was like, all
There you
right,
go. There
people
you
do
go.
care. They just didn't know that I was available.
I say
So
all this was a simple email, huh?
yeah, sometimes literally like I think sometimes we get in our heads that like we have to do it ourselves. And yes, we have to do it ourselves. We have to put in the work. But if you have a connection with somebody or somebody who can at least help you steer your feet in the right direction, don't be afraid to use that. Like I've never asked for any favors or anything like that, but I've always like Billy Gunn. He's one of my trainers. So whenever I need advice, I always call him and talk to him and be like, hey, what should I do? And he's always there and gives it to me. So it's like if you in wrestling, you will quickly find those connections. And if you have those connections, don't be afraid to talk to them and use them. And because we don't know all the answers. And sometimes people who have been in the business for a little bit longer than us do know some of the answers and can guide you. So I've never been shy about that because I wanna succeed and I can't succeed if I'm staying in a corner by myself. You know what I mean? So
I think that's one of those things that like we like just people in general, like whenever we do have like not necessarily an end, but just people on the inside, quote unquote, that can, further help us get to where we want to go. Like, but at the same time, you still have that inner thing, especially as a wrestler. I know you like essentially you're a business person. You are your business. Your business is
Yes.
yourself. That's your name.
Yeah.
So like I know at the same time it can also be that thing of like I kind of want to do it on my own, but at the same time, it's like you got these people that are willingly like, hey, reach out, let me help you type thing. But it's also that internal conflict of like, yeah, I kind of want to get it on my own, but sometimes you do like
Yeah.
just got to realize that there are people like the genuinely like that are in those spaces that genuinely just want to
Well,
help
think
you get
about
to the
it.
next level.
Yes. I mean, think about it this way. When you're behind the curtain, you
Mm.
still have to do the work. Like nobody can make you go to a ring and train and keep your cardio up and get better and progress and learn new things. That all is all on you. Nobody, like when I go to independent, nobody can reach out to a promoter for you and be like, hey, would love to work with you guys. And like, no,
Right.
I use those connections to elevate this, to become smarter about the business, and to also know what is the proper way to get my foot into certain doors.
Mm.
Because sometimes, like for example, when I wanted to go back to the NWA and work with them some more, I didn't know who to talk to because my first experience with NWA was through AEW.
Mm.
So all of that was set up for me because of the pay-per-view. So it's just a matter of like, hey, I would like to take this step, but what direction do I walk in? Like, who do I talk to? How do I figure this out? And then that person knows that information and they help you. So all the work behind the doors is up to you. But then if in order to find the right path, sometimes you just have to have a conversation. I don't
Mm.
know if that was a good analogy. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, 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 you good. It makes
But
sense.
yeah, yeah.
I say well, like when you was talking just now, I was thinking like I don't know how, but I almost choked on water. Like I swear I was looking at my camera
Oh
right now. I
no.
was like, I feel like I look so dumb right now. I was like, how you choke on water? But like I know for you,
Uh,
I know you coming up.
I feel like that all the time.
Uh, but I know you coming
Hmm?
up for you on October 30th. I know you got the Battle Slam Thriller show, and you're gonna be wrestling Queen Aminata.
Yes.
Baron Black got a real cool thing going on with Battle Slam. I was still thinking about how he had little Scrappy to agree to a match like a couple of months ago. But
Oh
yeah,
shoot.
but yeah, coming up for you is Queen Aminata in the Battle Slam promotion. Man, they got a lot of steam going on right now, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they continue to do with that show and going forward.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that show, and from what I've seen, he's created a really cool vibe at Battle Slam. Um, and I'm really excited that my first time there is going to be against Aminata because she's one of those people. Again, I see her all the time.
Yeah.
Like literally, we're always booked on shows together, and through AEW, I've seen her a lot. And somehow we've never wrestled each other, which blew my mind. I'm like, because I think there was at one point where I thought we had wrestled each other. And then her and I were talking about it, and we were both like, "Oh my gosh, no, we haven't wrestled each other." So I'm very excited to experience her for the first time because she is great.
Mm.
I like to think I'm decent, so I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to see how that works out. The king versus the queen, like,
Oh
let's
yeah,
go. It's gonna be a lot of kicks and
I actually saw that on the I think when the advertisement that they were using, it was like King versus Queen. I was like, oh, that's cool. I get it.
yeah.
That's a cool little thing that y'all got going on. But like I had asked you this like before we started recording, and like you could like sort of like repeat what you said or give like a summary of what you
Sure.
said. But like I was just going to ask you like everything that you've been able to accomplish over the last several years or so, man, like have you really had the time to like sit down and like bunker down and reflect on what you've been able to accomplish, or have things just been moving so fast that you really don't have the opportunity to just like take it all in?
I don't think I took it all in until my boyfriend forced me to take it all in
Mm.
because it's one of those things. As wrestlers, we're constantly like, okay, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. And so I would constantly in the like once something happened and was done, I was like, all right, what's next? Like I
Mm.
never fully like took time to enjoy it and absorb what I'd done. And it wasn't until recently where I was getting a little frustrated about a situation that I was dealing with at the time.
Mm.
And my boyfriend was like, "Can you just shut up for a second and just reflect on what you've done in the last year and a half, 2 years?" And I looked at him, I'm like, "What?" And he's just like, You've accomplished so much in the last 2 years." He's like, "I know people who've been wrestling for a decade, if not longer, who've not done nearly the amount of crap that you've done in the last 2 years." And I was like, Oh shoot, you're right. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, universe. Like, thank you. Because it's one of those things, again, like how we talked about earlier, it's a constant grind. There's really no sleep.
Mm,
Like the moment I wake up, I'm on my phone networking, doing stuff, creating new content, talking to gear makers, doing this, doing that, preparing for the next thing. Because wrestlers' brains live in the future.
mm.
Like we're constantly looking at the dates coming up and what we have to prepare for, because there's a lot of preparation, especially when we get the opportunity to do bigger things, like bigger events in between all the independent promotions. So we never really take time to sit there and be like, wow, I did that. Like we're always thinking about the next thing. So sometimes, and that's why it's good to have those people in our lives who force us to stop for a moment
Mm,
and just be like, yo, look what life has provided for you. And I'm like,
mm.
you're right. You're right. Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty bad at that. I'm always thinking about the next couple of weeks as opposed to today.
Right.
Um, so, but I did recently reflect on it, and it's been really. I think in the last year and a half, I've done one, two, three. I'm about to have done 5 pay-per-views,
You gotta look
which
at that.
might not which might not seem like a lot to some people, but considering the fact that I'm not technically signed to a company and I've been a part of 5 pay-per-views
Mm.
between NWA and AEW, to me, I think that's a huge accomplishment. So
I say you were on you were on All Out last year, right? At the in the
I
casino,
was
casino battle
the
royal.
women's royale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. That was cool. That was cool. But like, so
yeah.
continuing on that a little bit. Like, I know. I think like, I would say not too long ago, I had saw you on social media. You saw you threw your name in the hat for people that might be able to be the ones to take on Saraya if she is cleared to come back in the ring. I thought that was a cool thing you did, man. Like just to throw your name out there. I mean, I don't think it's been officially confirmed. I know she's like addressed some things like on her Twitch and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and she hasn't formally put it out there or even like confirmed that she is clear, but like she has been getting physical on TV, and stuff like that, and like all signs are kind of point to, but like until officially it comes from her or AEW, like we really don't know. But like at the same time, how cool would it be for you to be trusted with that opportunity to be the first person to step back in the ring with Saraya in a sanctioned match since she had her unfortunate injury, all those years ago.
It would be so cool. So this is gonna sound like such a stupid reason to love her.
Mm.
But I remember when she debuted in NXT, I was
uh,
obsessed with how pale she was.
okay, that's a reason.
Because, well, it sounds so stupid, but as a woman who goes through mental abuse towards herself over
Okay,
her looks and things
okay.
that like people always seem to think is wrong with her,
It's
growing
some
up,
relate to. Yeah.
yes, growing up, I my family's Irish.
Okay.
My dad is a Native American. He's Cherokee and Shawnee, and my mom's side of the family is like pure Irish.
Mm,
So I got my mom's genetics. I got my dad's height, but I got my mom's coloring. So I my entire life I've been super super pale. Nothing I have done has worked. Like I did tanners, looked terrible. I did tanning beds. I could go to a tanning bed for 2 3 months and I would barely get any darker. It just wasn't in my genetics. I wasn't meant to be tan.
mm,
But even before wrestling, I was a entertainer. I did theater, dance, musical theater, and I was constantly doing uh, auditions and camps and stuff like that. And the comment that I would always get was, "You should get tanner. Like you should use a tanner or something because like it just it's not a good look. Like people look better when they're tan."
mm.
And I always got so frustrated with that comment because I'm like, look, I'm born the way I was born. Like, why the hell is being pale such a problem? Uh, and but that's just entertainment. Like they're always trying to nitpick the things that they think will make you look better. And to me, it was like I thought I looked fine pale, so I didn't understand it.
Mm.
And I remember when she debuted on NXT, and I heard her story about how, and I could have misheard this, but from what I heard, like she tried out for NXT or for WWE, and she came looking completely different than she usually looks. I think they said she had a different hair color and she had put tanner on.
Mm.
and they told her, they're like, hey, we don't know what's going on, but this isn't you.
Yeah,
And then
because
the next time she came back,
mm-hmm.
she was herself. She had her dark hair, she was pale, and then she got signed. So to me, and the fact that like that was her whole thing, was like, I'm different and I'm okay with that. Like I'm a different kind of female wrestler, and that's what's gonna get me over. I was so obsessed with that because that was the first time. Like China is the one who made me feel uh secure about being big, like being a big strong girl.
Mm-hmm.
Paige is the one who made me feel okay with the way I looked.
Mm-hmm.
Like coloring wise. I was just like, okay, I got bright ass red hair and I'm pale as hell, and that's okay. And then like also too, just tapping into being a little bit different and not being scared to do that. So when I saw her debut at AEW, and like the question mark was up in the air, like,
Yeah.
is she here as just a personality, or is she here as a wrestler? I was like, I'm not going to waste any time, and I'm just going to tweet that and send it out, because what an honor it would be to wrestle the person who made me okay with being a pale person.
Mm.
When I say it out loud, but emotionally, like, you'd be surprised how much that affects you.
Yeah.
So the fact that she may be okay with that, and it wasn't a thing that like bothered me anymore, it was a big deal to me. So
That's cool. That's cool, man. I hope that you are able to get your match. Like maybe you will be the first person to step in the ring.
I would be honored. She's awesome.
I say that'll be cool. That'll be a cool thing, and hopefully like people will go back and look at that tweet if that does happen and be like, well, she put it out there, so you know there it is. But
It
like
it got a great response.
it did, it did.
It
But
did, like within minutes, like almost 1,000 likes. I was like, okay, people want to see this match. Okay.
but like so the you know, staying on the the same topic of AEW, like I always look back and remember those days when it was you, Red Velvet and Big Swole. Like I feel like you guys, I felt like y'all just clicked, and I feel like that's one of the, like you always say, like something like you can always tell when people are tight off screen, or when they have like a very good relationship off screen, because that just translates over to, you know, what they do
Yeah.
on screen, and that's what it seemed like. And even when y'all weren't doing trios matches, like when y'all were just doing singles and the other two would be accompanying them to the ring, it always seemed like y'all just had this natural like we're cool off screen, and like we just like it's y'all were carrying on what you were doing backstage and just bringing that on screen. Like so to talk to me about your time with Big Swole and Red Velvet, and how much of a fun time that was.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew each other from the independents before we found our way to AEW. So we
Mm.
already had a good, strong relationship before that. And then, during COVID, being there all the time, like just sheltered in with each other, like we were constantly around each other, always hanging out. It wasn't just when we were at work, like we would
Yeah.
hang out in between all of it as well. And so we all just became really, really close. And then I'm trying to remember how that all came about. I think I was mainly just doing singles wrestling. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, we want to put you with Velvet. Okay, cool. Had a match or tagged with Velvet. And then Velvet tagged with Swole. And then it kept going back and forth. And eventually we all did it together. And there was just something really fun and very natural about it. Like they brought out a different side of me. Like you don't usually see me come out and dance in my entrances, but I am that girl. Like if I go out with my friends to a club, like, yeah, all right, this isn't my usual thing, but all right, we'll dance. And like it was like just a very natural thing. I'm kind of bummed we didn't get to see where it went. It kind of fell apart before it fully took off. Um, I think they just had different ideas for us, and they experimented with that. And then before they had any idea of what it could be, they had other ideas for us separate. So
Yeah.
it ended up like ending before it really took off. But it was really fun to get to work with them, because I've always been a very big fan of tag team wrestling. I love it. I love anything that involves me getting to use two people against each other, or using somebody in my own way. Like I
Mm.
love things, because there's so many different avenues that you can use in whether it's tag team wrestling or multi-man matches. Like I love the different avenues that you can find with the same set of moves that you have, but in new ways with multiple bodies. So I've always been a big fan of it, and getting to do it with two people that I knew, respected and trusted, like it just made that time really, really special. So I'd do it again. So I always message Velvet. I'm like, yo, when are we gonna tag again? She's like, I know. Like because because I love the dynamic that her and I have because I'm so big and she's so small.
Mm,
So there's just so many things that her and I could do with each other. Like one of my favorite spots that we did together was our corner spot where, you know, we would be lighting them up in the corner and then I would come in last, drop to all fours, and she would run and jump and do her double knees.
mm.
I thought that was so cool. And I just wanted to continue to come up with crazy ideas like that so we could make each other look like a couple badasses. But unfortunately we never got to continue that growth. But
Yeah.
it was so fun, and I loved getting to grow with them like that.
And like circling back around to the NWA before we wind down, like I wanted to ask you, like, because I know Jazz works backstage in the NWA. Like I had talked to Kamille and she was talking about like how helpful Jazz is, and like, you know, and I know Alundra Blaze is back there as well. Like, have you had the opportunity to work with either of them, and if so, like how helpful have they been? You know, just having them, just having two powerful voices like that backstage, and like with all the experience, like just passing that on to other members of the roster.
It's awesome. I love picking their brains. I know sometimes in my promos I get more caught up about what I'm saying as opposed to how I'm saying it. And I know
Mm,
Alundra, sorry, Medusa,
mm,
Medusa,
mm,
um, she she always gives me really good advice about like, yeah, how to deliver things, and I always really appreciate that. Um, and then too, like sometimes like when I call matches, like I love the fact that Medusa will just stay by the ring
mm.
and just kind of eavesdrop a little bit, and then just in certain parts just insert an idea. Like, hey, like I know you guys are going in this direction, but what if?
Mm.
And then all of a sudden that takes our brain in a completely different direction. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't we see that before? So that is really cool just to see those little intricate changes that really elevate something. Um, and Jazz is just the coolest. She's just the coolest. I always appreciate her because every single time I finish a match, she always pulls me aside and just gives me honest truth. Like, hey, this was great, but this part, what the hell? Like she picks it apart and she's so honest with me, which I love because I've always told people I would rather hear critiques than praise because critiques are what helped me get better. And she's never hesitated to do that, and I love that for her for that.
Mm.
um you know, and she's just, but on top of that as well, like she's very she's probably one of the sweetest people I've ever met. Like she just, you can tell every single time she's around you she just wants all of us to do good. It's not a matter of like, oh, this is my job, okay, I'm here.
Mm.
Whatever females are given to her that day, she's going to pay attention and she's going to make sure she brings out the best and whatever you have to offer at the time, and then she'll push you a little bit more and make you even better.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, I love working with them, and it's really cool too because Medusa was like one of my favorites growing up. And just the fact that I get to work in the same locker room with her now, I'm like, wait, what? Like her and Bolicano are still one of my favorite because they had some killer matches, like, and
Mm.
like you could tell like they knew each other and they were comfortable with each other and they would just get in there and they would just beat the crap out of each other. And I'm like, that's the chemistry you like to have with somebody, that you don't really have to like have a lot in your head. You can just go out
Mm.
there and do your
Just do
thing
it.
with them. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the dream. So I was like, I just want to get to that point one day where I can just get in the ring with somebody and not really have to overthink it. Just let's beat each other up. All right, go.
I say, and now at this Hard Times 3 pay-per-view, with you and Kamille competing for the women's world title. I know that Always Ready, Bully Ray was on commentary, and I know he played a role in both of you guys' training. So
Yes.
was it special for you to have him on commentary? And like I'm pretty sure, like, if you know, because I know he's doing some stuff with Impact right now, but if dates don't conflict, and there's nothing going on the day of Hard Times 3, I'm probably guessing like highly on the side that he'll probably be there on commentary. Like how cool would it be for him to be there in a moment where you could become the women's world champion or world women's champion? Like I'm pretty sure that'd be a special moment to have somebody
Incredible.
that has seen you since literally day one.
Yeah. I mean, that would be incredible. I think like to, you know, I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when, because
Okay,
I'm a
there we
big
go. There we
believer
go.
in manifesting. Um, when I beat Kamille for the NWA title, it's going to be like, if he's there with us, it's going to be a transfer from one mentee to another.
Yeah.
Um, And like and to be honest, he's kind of the reason I got another chance for the title.
Mm,
He was like, hey, I really believe in her. I really believe in her. Give her another opportunity to win that number one contendership. And I got that match with Taya, and I was able to find my hand raised at the end of the night. So if he hadn't have pitched my name, I wouldn't have gotten that rematch with Taya, and I wouldn't now be able to call myself the
mm,
number one contender. So to have him there, knowing that he was pushing for me this entire time, it would be amazing. Not to mention, like as trainees, we always want to make our mentors proud,
yeah.
and it was already like mind blowing that he was there for the first match. Like the fact, that he wanted to be that he wanted to have that full circle moment with us and come back into one of our biggest. Well, I don't know if it was her, if she considers it her biggest match. But to me at the time, it was one of my biggest matches that I had had so far.
Mm,
Um, so the fact that he wanted to be there, not only on commentary, but to just to be there with us and to watch over us and help us with that, like I was very, very honored. And it was really cool to see him on the other side of things, not in training anymore, but in at work,
right.
and like
Right.
doing it together. Like we're working together on the same.
A colleague now.
Yes. So it was really cool to tap into that part of our relationship together. So to have him there in that moment, it would be so incredible.
And lastly, my final question here, like as you continue to, establish yourself within these different organizations and companies, and as well as on the independent scene, specifically on the independent side, like this is just like a what if question, but like how cool would it be, for the opportunity for you to possibly compete at a PWG show? Like I know that's like this for a long time. Like I mean I think you kind of debate with between GCW and PWG as far as like right now, but like I know for a long time at PWG was like that was like the standard bearer when you're talking about high level
Oh,
independence, and I know
yeah.
right, and I know for the last, well, I think coming up for the November 6th show, November 3rd. I can't remember which date it was, but I know it's in November. It's going to be the second time back to back show that there's going to be a women's match on the show. The first time was Yuka Sakazaki and Masha Slamovich, and now they're doing a rematch between
Yeah.
Jordan Grace and Masha. But like, how cool would that be to but be able to be among that class of individuals, women who have been able to compete on the PWG show. Like so far, I think is you got your Candice LeRae's who was a regular who sort of broke that standard, and then now you got
Yeah.
it's like rebooted now. I guess in a sort of way, two consecutive shows in a row. But it's just like a what if question. But the idea of one day possibly competing on that show as you for you to put that promotion as you continue to establish yourself on the independence and within these different places.
It would be a huge honor. I mean, I watch PWG so much.
Mm,
Like Trevor and I, like that's like we're signed up for like a Patreon, and once a month we get like a flood of videos of like
that's cool.
random uh like old
Right.
stuff that you can't find anymore, or
Mm,
just like independent things that really don't get posted on YouTube. Like we sign up for that, and we get a crap ton of PWG stuff, and I love studying it because there's just so many wild matches, and
yeah.
people get so creative there. And like I said, I love multi-man matches. I love the different avenues that you can find in those scenarios, and they have some incredible multi-man matches on their cards. um so not only to be a part of the roster that is coming in, like the new women's wrestlers that are starting to become a part of it, not only would that be an honor, but just to be in that atmosphere, to experience that crowd and
Mm,
be around those people that like push themselves creatively like that, like that's the level I'm trying to get to.
mm,
So I would absolutely love that. I think I reached out to them. I think I sent them a thing,
mm.
but it was through social media, and I don't know how often they look at
Yeah.
those. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to find the email and reach out again, because it's one of those things, like I would like to get to that point where it's not even a second thought. Like shows like that are like, we need a girl who, oh, KiLynn, let's like
Mm,
that's where I would like my brand to get to, is that it's not, that's the first name that pops in their head. But it takes a lot of grind, it takes a lot of work. So PWG, if you see this,
there you
I
go.
would love to come work for you guys.
There you
Please.
go. Look at that.
I will wrestle, and I will wrestle anyone. I will wrestle girls. I will wrestle men. I will wrestle non-gender specific. I don't care.
There you go.
Give them to me. Like, let's go.
There you go. I see that's what you got. Just throw yourself out there, man, because you never
Yeah, just throw yourself out there.
you legit never know what can happen. But Kyla, before we wrap it up, please plug all your social medias, your merchandise, anything you got, Twitch stream, or whatever you got going on. I'm gonna make sure I plug it in the description of this video.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram, really simple at KiLynn King. I post almost daily. You're right, right.
Very smart.
Nothing fancy. It's right to the point. I post almost every single day, whether it's just content that I'm creating or shows that are coming up between my posts and my stories. I always keep you guys up to date. I do have a Facebook, but I use that more for promoters and stuff like that. So I'm not like, I don't really check it that often. So you'll have better luck with Instagram and Twitter. And then if you guys are interested in buying t-shirts from me, I do sell t-shirts at a site called fullygimmicked.com. And then I try to have t-shirts and 8x10s always with me at shows. And if you want 8x10s, you can DM me. Just keep professional, guys. Keep professional. Yeah. I'm constantly trying to do stuff. Booking wise, you can reach out to me on my social medias. I do respond. Sometimes it takes a little bit, sorry. But if email wise, if you want to reach out to me about bookings, KiLynnKing@yahoo.com.
There you go. I'm gonna make sure we gonna plug all that in the description of the video. Go support her, man. Go support the people. Go all the people. Go support KiLynn King. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andrew Thompson of the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel. Signing off with who could be your next NWA World Women's Champion, KiLynn King. Will be. There you go. I got to remain impartial, Kyle. I can't choose sides. I can't choose.
Okay, well, then I'll say it for you.
There you go.
Who will be the next NWA World Women's Champion?
There you go. And she will be challenging Kamille for the NWA World Women's Championship coming up in November at Hard Times 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andrew Thompson, Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel. Signing off with KiLynn King, and we are out. Peace.